Not probably.
Mine was just turned off.
I guess you have to push power.
The lot size really doesn't.
Actually, no.
I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I remember.
We are just about ready.
2 meetings ago.
Everyone wants to
I think you
just
had
take their seat. We'll start the meeting in just a few seconds.
It's like a touch.
Hey, I don't know how to turn it on.
It's just like a touch thing on the power.
Right? Yours is not on.
Mine's on,
Oh, it just
but
turned
I
on.
had to turn it on.
I keep pushing that and it doesn't do it.
It took like half a second.
Okay, go ahead and get started. Figure out. Jeremy, will you do me a favor and touch the cable?
All right, welcome everyone. I am Chairman Packer. We'll open this meeting of the Kaysville City Planning Commission, January 8th, 2026. First item on our agenda tonight is a declaration of conflict of interest from any of the commissioners. Seeing nothing, we will move on to our main item on our agenda tonight, a public hearing for a rezone for approximately 1820 South Sunset Drive from RA and A1 to an R16 with approved overlay. What we'll do is we'll have our Community Development Director, Melinda Greenwood, go through a presentation. Then we will have the applicant talk to us. And at that point, we will open up the public comment section. And so we'll give you any instructions when we get to that point.
All right, well, as mentioned, we're here tonight to discuss an application that was submitted last month from Symphony Homes for a rezone at property addressed approximately 1820 South Sunset Drive. There's actually 3 parcels that are included in tonight's application. Total, those 3 parcels come to 14.7 acres. The current use of that property is agricultural, or it's just undeveloped. Current zoning is A1 and RA, and the requested zoning is R16, which is a single-family zone with a PRUD overlay, which essentially is the overlay zone that gets applied on top of that zone and allows for private streets. So this is just an aerial shot showing, again, those 3 parcels that are proposed for rezone, and then that zoning request with the R16 and the PRUD. This is the proposed project. I'll go into a little bit more details later, but it's just a nice bird's eye view of 46 single-family lots. The lot sizes are ranging between 6,300 square feet and just over 22,000 square feet. There are both public roads and private roads proposed. When we look at a rezone, we always kind of want to take into account what exists currently. So this is a screenshot of our current zoning map that again indicates that area is currently zoned A5. We have our residential agricultural A1. There's also some R120 zoning to the east and R1LD as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about the general plan. General plan was adopted by the City Council in 2022. And one of the things we look at first when we're speaking to a rezone is what does the future land use map show that property to be utilized as. And this map here shows the yellow is single family. So the proposed rezone at R16, which is one of our single family zones, and the proposal of the 46 single family lots does fit within the future land use map. The general plan also has 5 different guiding principles that kind of tie back into each of the chapters and the goals and objectives at the end of each of those chapters. And one of those guiding principles that supports this this particular application is that the community spoke to providing diverse housing options. So with the variation of lot sizes that ranging between just over 6,000 to over 22,000 does provide some diverse lot sizes that don't currently exist in that area, although they're up in the Sunset Equestrian Estates there are some some units that are actually much smaller than what the 6,000 square foot lot is. Chapter 1 is the land use and placemaking plan. There were 3 different goals and some objectives in that plan, or that chapter, that spoke to this application. Again, goal 1 is to preserve and protect Kaysville's small town atmosphere by limiting change in functioning neighborhoods and districts. And the objective below that supported this was, preserve single-family neighborhoods by restricting development to models that fit the existing character of the neighborhood. So, whereas everything surrounding, that was previously agricultural and was rezoned to be single-family, this would be the same with that, and we do consider that single-family zoning would be compatible with the existing single-family zoning. It also speaks to preserving the established character of Kaysville, and again, that supports the established focus on single-family residential uses. And the last goal in that chapter that was applicable is, again, going back to that guiding principle, but providing a range of housing options and price points that help ensure Kaysville is an affordable place to live. The next chapter, 2, transportation and connectivity, had 2 goals that I felt were applicable to this application as well. One is to preserve and enhance community access and to create a connected network. Currently, the area over there that is utilized as agricultural doesn't have any dedicated public right-of-way. It's accessible really only through some parcels that are owned by Kaysville City but not dedicated or maintained as streets. And then preserve neighborhood character but integrate new development, and balancing the preservation of existing neighborhoods with the new development and connecting those. Chapter 3 is our housing and neighborhood plans, and the goal in there is just to provide a full range of housing opportunities to meet economic, lifestyle, and life cycle needs and expectations for residents. This objective 1.3 is part of the city's moderate income housing plan that the state requires we include in our general plan. And this verbiage is taken directly from state code, but was applicable to rezone for densities necessary to facilitate the production of moderate income housing. So with this being an application that does have smaller lot sizes, we felt that was applicable. And then one of the implementation measures that falls beneath this goal is that when we submitted this to the state and they approved that, we told the state that if there was a land use application that met the future land use map, as well as other elements of the general plan, that we would provide a positive recommendation, which this application does receive, and I'll go over that a little bit more. And then lastly, this is a new thing. In December, the City Council adopted a new chapter of the general plan. And this is also something the state has required that cities incorporate into general plans. And it's really trying to be forward thinking and ensuring that we have done this anyway, although with this new chapter in the general plan, we'll be calling it out more. But it's really just ensuring that there would be water availability for any development that we would approve. So went through the process to look at how many single-family lots this project proposes, again at 60 or 46. The average single-family home uses about 7,100 gallons per month of culinary water. And so we took that, we equated that to acre feet, which is the measurements that we have water contracts with Weber Basin Water Conservancy District. So the city does not produce any water. We purchase the water wholesale and then distribute that through our own system. We have a total of 3,186 acre feet of water through Weber Basin. There's a 5-year average of the use of that allotment is just over 2,400 acre feet. This development is projected to utilize about 12 acre feet. So we do have adequate water to serve this particular development and would have remaining capacity. This is just for culinary water. The city doesn't run or operate any of the secondary water services, but there is adequate culinary water. This project is also being accompanied by a development agreement. So there were a few public comments that we received that were concerned about the density entitlement. A development agreement is a tool allowed by use through state code, and we would record, if this project gets approved, we would record that against the property, and that really just sets zoning regulations for the community. So that should give some assurance that, you know, the development agreement does say that this would be R16 with the PRUD overlay. It sets the site plan and layout, the lot sizes, the number of lots, so the Symphony couldn't come back and say, well, actually, we're going to do 60. They could not do that without the City Council amending a development agreement. There's other provisions in the development agreement that are just a little variations to what the R16 zoning allows. One of that is frontage. The frontage is, I think, 55 feet requires, but the development agreement would stipulate that it can go as low as 50 feet, but it has to average at least 60 feet over the entire development. The front setbacks are proposed to be 20 feet with side setbacks as 5 feet. That would then, between the two homes, would be a total of 10 feet because there would be 5 for each building. A rear setback is proposed to be 25 feet with an exception that covered patios could encroach into that setback, but would have to be at least 10 feet off of that rear property line. The building height is proposed to be 35 feet, but limited to 2 stories. That 35 feet would just allow for some of the higher or steeper pitched roofs on some of the homes that Symphony likes to build in those communities. The development agreement also stipulates fencing as depicted in the plan that was included in the packet. We would ask for no parking on the private street for public safety access, just ensuring that those, generally speaking, the reason why there's private streets is because they can do a street that is not as wide as the public right-of-way that's required, and that can be constricting with public safety response. So we want to make sure that even if the street is a little bit more narrow than what we design with our public right-of-way, that public safety can still get in and access that. And so we have a provision in there that would state that the HOA would post that private street as no parking and include that in their CC&Rs. There's also some landscaping requirements. I have another slide on the next that I'll go into a little bit of detail with that, but it addresses phasing. It limits that, and this is fire code, so we wouldn't allow this anyway, but we're putting in the development agreement just for safe measures. But fire code dictates that if there are more than 30 units in a development, you have to have at least 2 points of ingress egress. So with the way this project is proposed, there is only 1 point of ingress egress right now proposed at Sunset Drive. But they would be limited to only having 30 homes built or receive a certificate of occupancy until a secondary access could be established. And then lastly, this is also something that we do, but we put it in the development agreement based on just a lot of the concerns from the public. But all the intersections in the project, as well as that connection point into Sunset Drive, would be designed to AASHTO standards. AASHTO is the American Association of Safety and Highway Traffic Officials. That is the kind of the gold standard that UDOT, all of the departments of transportation, and all city engineers use. I do have one proposed amendment to the development agreement that was included in the packet. It just took a little bit of time to sort through this project, but there is a list of trees in there that we would allow to be planted in the park strip. It is very hard to have trees in the park strip. A lot of times they may not grow tall enough, and that impedes pedestrian or even vehicular access, or they may end up with roots that try and, they destroy the sidewalk. And so we've created a list of trees that should be better in a smaller area like a park strip. and ones that would be salt resistant as well as drought tolerant. So based on some feedback from our Parks and Recreation Department, who we do have, I think actually 2 certified arborists that work for the city, they are recommending that these 3 ones that are stricken out in the red be removed from that list.
Melinda,
Yeah.
on the last slide, you mentioned phasing. Can you remind me what phasing means?
Yeah, so phasing is just essentially like what portions of a development that they'll start with first. I don't know if I have a slide. Let me go back to this other slide. I don't think I put a phasing slide in, but this, let me see if I can get my mouse over to that screen. Okay, trying to figure out which direction it goes. It's not up. Well, okay, that middle portion was proposed as phase 1. I believe that the brown portion, the lower end with the smaller lots, was proposed to be phase 2, and then the top part would be phase 3. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that those would be constructed in that particular order. The development agreement does address phasing, but there may be some, adjustments to phasing based on market. There may be more of a demand for those smaller lots than larger lots, and so the phasing just is what kind of what each section of that subdivision would be constructed in if it ends up getting approved. So that middle section would have to be phase 1 because that's the only way they could access the project, and then they would also, in order to get. So they could do that middle phase of the project, put in essentially either a hammerhead turnaround or a public safety turnaround at the end of that, where 550 exists currently. But then if they move to a second phase, they would have to improve that 550 West or Seabiscuit Drive all the way to that full right-of-way width before they could proceed to another phase. Does that answer?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. This is probably going to be really hard to see, but one of the comments or emails that was received had concerns about the current width of 550 West or Seabiscuit Drive. I did mention earlier the city owns that as a parcel. It's not dedicated right away. But Seabiscuit Drive / 550 West has been planned for a number of years to be a what's called a significant local street, and through that does require 66 feet of right-of-way. That in the end will yield 41 feet of asphalt. So those local streets tend to be wider than just your regular residential streets. And this detail up there at the top just kind of, there's a chart that just kind of shows like how much the parkway strip would be, the sidewalk, and but that asphalt's width would be 41 feet. I'm hoping I interpreted that correctly. We have received, I think there was another public comment that came in after I finished the presentation. So that might be 13 email comments that have come in now. 3 were in support. The rest of those the balance of those either were in opposition or just expressing concerns. The primary concern that I think has come out of most of those emails is regarding traffic and safety, in particular that proposed intersection at Sunset Drive. I know that our applicant this evening has an exhibit that will show some of the site distances that he had their traffic engineer put together. But in consultation and discussion with our public works director, who is an engineer, and our city engineer, who's also an engineer, we feel collectively that a connection point at Sunset Drive is important. The general plan does support those connection points. In fact, on an earlier application, the Encore Estates that Symphony had approved, might have been a rezone, not last year, but the year prior. We actually kind of went to the mats with Symphony Homes. Neighbors didn't want the roads connected, but we felt strongly that they needed to be, and we referred back to that general plan and required that they put that road connection in. So we do feel that the connection point into Sunset is important. We also believe, and we haven't seen any civil drawings, but we believe that that intersection can be designed to meet those AASHTO standards and constructed to be a safe intersection. If that can't be done, we wouldn't allow the access or the intersection to be constructed. But we do feel like that is something that's important and something that is doable. Some of the other comments in opposition were speaking to the density and lot sizes, loss of agricultural land, concerns about infrastructure capacity. I think there is adequate sewer capacity. All of the infrastructure may not exist over there, but it doesn't exist until you have a cause to build it, and you don't have a cause to build it until a rezone and a subdivision is approved. So that would be forthcoming, and I also spoke to the availability of water previously. There were also concerns, again, about the allowances the R16 would allow for more than that 46 lots that Symphony is proposing. But again, with the development agreement, what we would set with that agreement would be what would be allowed. And so even though in R16 zoning without a development agreement could allow, twice as many lots, with that development agreement, it would be limited to that 46. There were also some concerns about the Angel Street connection into the Seabiscuit Drive or 550 West. Symphony Homes does not own the property that is in between essentially the city's parcels and Angel Street. This sewer district owns that. So we have been in discussions with the sewer district to hopefully make provisions to have enough property acquired to complete that connection. So I think that was everything I wanted to cover. We are recommending approval of this based on the support from the 2022 general plan. If this is something the council or the commission feels comfortable with voting on a recommendation tonight, I would just ask that there were a couple other sections of the development agreement where looking at it a little bit closer, we may want to change some wording. So I would, if you are ready to make a motion and it would be for approval, I would just ask that the commission give us leeway as staff and legal counsel to make any final edits before we would take that to the Planning Commission. So that is what I have. I'm happy to answer questions. And then the applicant is here this evening. I do have some slides that he wanted to go through. So I'm happy to take questions, or if you want to have Matt present and then take questions after Matt, whatever the preference is.
Will you just clarify a little bit? When you said that there might need to be some small edits, I think that puts a little fear in people's. Can you tell us what kind of edits so we don't?
Well, some of that could have to do with the connection into Angel Street. We may want to put a provision in there, but that's something that just needed further discussion. And I think that's probably the main thing. I would also ask that we amend the tree list as I proposed previously. So okay. It would really not be anything substantive.
Just want to be transparent on any type
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that, Chair Packer. But yeah, we toyed around a little bit with, do we want to put something in about the Angel Street connection? That's tough to do though, because adding something into a development agreement with a third party that isn't a party to that development agreement, doesn't own the property, can just be tricky. So that's something that we just wanted to kind of vet further. I don't know if that's something the council would want to see, but that's something that, we may try and look at including.
Yeah, that's good. And just in case anyone's not familiar, like our role tonight is, if we come to a vote tonight, is to make a recommendation to the city council, and then they make the actual final decision on the rezone. So, nothing sneaks around, any approval here, if there is a small edit or something, it'll still have to happen before the city council looks at it.
Yeah,
So.
and we do make every effort to be as transparent as possible. So in that instance, if there were edits that were made to the development agreement between what the Planning Commission had recommended, the Planning Commission and City Council, I would include that as a red line in the packet for the council so the public could see what would have changed, if anything, from what you recommend to what goes into the council packet.
Yeah, very good.
Melinda, does the city's street plan or transportation plan, such as it is, does it show that Angel Street connection going all the way down? And is that contemplated?
So we have code, city code, it's in Title 8, that depicts that Seabiscuit Drive /550 West would connect between Mare and Angel Street. But we don't, a lot of cities, most cities have like a master streets plan.
Right.
We don't.
Yeah.
So in lieu of that, we do have our code. And that goes back to that slide where I had that street detail. So, excuse me, this is copied and pasted right out of code. So we have a section of code and it's the major street plan. It's in Title 8. Name of the street, the beginning, the end point, the minimum right of way. I did add in the AKA 550 West and the 41 feet of asphalt. So the name of the street, Seabiscuit Drive, beginning at Mare, ending at Angel Street, being termed as a significant local street and called out of that 66-foot right of way. And that's been in city code long before our public works director has been here. He's been here, I think, for about 10 years. So that's been something that's been planned for in city code for quite a while.
Do we have any other questions before we have our applicant come up? All right. If you want to come up and share with us what you have.
Matt Loveland on behalf of Symphony Homes, 111 South Frontage Road, Centerville, Utah. I appreciate you guys having me here tonight. And I wanted to kind of start with a history, but it's going to be much shorter, where we've had prior discussions. And so Melinda's pulling up our presentation currently. And then just jump to page 2. So this project has been an evolution. Back in January of last year, we hosted a neighborhood open house to gather community feedback before we went into the design stage. In May of last year, we submitted an application for 297 homes on the area shown here. And that was heard and seen by the Planning Commission in August. And since then, we have made the decision to bifurcate the project into an east and a west. Both east and west have different challenges, and the plan and intention has always been to start on the east and work to the west. And so, and also Symphony owns the entirety of the property that we're talking about tonight, where the other side has other parties as well. So our intentions for the west side remain the same, and goals, but the east side is what we're here to talk about tonight. You might go into the next slide, Melinda. So from the prior application, it is a new application, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's the same project. So specific to the east side, we had proposed 99 single-family homes, 13 of those traditional front-loading, 86 of those being the rear-load, smaller single-family. In our new design, we have 46 homes with that R16 designation, all of which are traditional front-loading, and what I would dub as atypical Symphony homes. And so we have definitely scaled back. We've also analyzed the entire project and also while taking into account some of the feedback and community comment that we've had, and this is what brings us here tonight. So, Melinda, you mind next one? So there have been some concerns around the R16 allowances. One of those is the R16 can allow over 5 units an acre, and what we're proposing, the development agreement explicitly restricts the property to 46 homes, and so there's no comeback with something else. And then one thing that I do want to point out here, so if you look at the homes on the right side, these are Symphony homes, and every one of these can and will be built within the project. And so when we're talking about lot sizes and aesthetics, overall character, this is what we intend to do. The yellow lots are larger, and then the brown lots are a medium-sized lot. And the homes in the bottom two, so far right row, the bottom two right there, those are the homes that can be built on the brown lots, 2-car standard, 3-car availability on every single lot. And then the larger homes being the yellow. So we're coming in at just over 3 units per acre. We do have the front setback at 20, rear at 25, side at 5 and 5 for a total of 10, and then street corner being 15. So one of the things with the side yard setback, if we were to build the absolute biggest home that we build on every single lot, it would create a situation where there could be 10 feet between buildings. We have not seen that in our experience building, that the biggest homes picked every time. And but with that also, the bigger homes carry typically larger values as well. And so and then the second component was setbacks. The rear yard, so 25 feet would be to the primary structure. We're proposing that we could extend into that up to 15 feet, but no more than 10 off the rear property line. What that allows us to do is, depending on the lot size, that's anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 square feet of outdoor living area that we are able to incorporate into the home, and really trying to integrate backyard to that outdoor living and entertainment area. And so actual structure would be non-habitable. It would just be the covered porch within that area. And then, Melinda, if you can go to the next one, actually. So a couple more of the homes that we intend on building here. Building height was the other one mentioned. And so we are proposing a 3-foot increase from the 32-foot in code to a 35-foot height restriction. That would be solely to accommodate our European romantic roof lines. The European romantic elevation, it's trending, extremely popular, and that architecture lends itself to 12-12 pitches and greater. And so the top left one, for example, we are unable to offer certain homes that we build in other communities, and we would love to do that in Kaysville. That said, so that's the reason behind the 35 feet. It's also explicit that they will not be above 2 stories. So there will be no 3, 4-story anything. So it's purely to accommodate the roof line structure. The other thing with that is not every home will be 35 feet. Other elevations that we have obviously don't protrude up nearly as much. So I think it'll help quite a bit with street appeal and curb, adding some of that variety. Go to the next one. Traffic is going to be and has been a large part of the discussion to date. I've done my best to whittle it down into 2 kind of buckets. I just need to go on the record and say I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm not licensed in this. However, I'm going to do my best to convey how this intersection works as well as how the existing infrastructure can accommodate our proposed plan. So the two components, one is the volume of homes or traffic on the road. The second is actually the intersection alignment and placement. This first slide that we have here, Hell's Engineering is an authority, one of the main traffic engineers for the Wasatch Front. They conducted traffic counts and issued in August of 2025 this report for our prior plan. The assumptions were pretty simple. We had 2 access points assumed for our prior plan. So we have the east access off of Sunset Drive, and then the southwest access off of Angel Street. So only the 2 access points. In that plan, there's the 297 proposed homes, 99 of which are in the area we're talking about tonight. And then it was also, as a recommendation of the traffic engineer to lean more conservative, they assumed that 25% of the Sunset Equestrian Estates traffic would traverse south and use our project as their primary exit. And so, and then another one, this is just, again, just trying to be conservative and see where things lie. The other assumption is that Angel Street would not connect beyond our boundary limits. And so there wouldn't be the full access. Everything is going to push to Sunset Drive or that roundabout down there at Sunset and Angel. The findings from this were all of the intersections along Sunset Drive received a level service A. Our 2 proposed intersections, so row 5 there is Sunset Drive at the 297 with the 25% increase from Sunset Equestrian. It was a level service A. And then across the project, the second access the same. Go to the next one. So the second component is intersection alignment, spacing, and how you actually tie a road into another road. ASHTA is, they are, as Melinda said, the gold standard. So in the development agreement, it states that we will design and according to those standards. Sunset Drive is posted as a 30-mile-per-hour road. The graphic that is depicted here assumes a 35-mile-per-hour speed. And the tables on the right are directly out of ASHTO. And what you do is you go down and you look at what are the posted travel speeds for the road you're accessing on. And then the far right column is the design length in which you have to design it to. So to the north, it has a minimum requirement of 335. To the south, 390 feet. Hell's Engineering, being our traffic engineer, as well as our civil engineer, and then Public Works has looked at this, and it has been concluded that this access as proposed can be designed and meet the ASHTO guidelines. So jump to the next one here. There's been a lot of discussion with the neighbors, the community down here, and there are a lot of really good people that live in this community. And, you know, at times I wish I was meeting them under different circumstances. From prior discussions, a couple things that have come up. So the packet was updated, I believe, just yesterday with the fencing exhibit. We have added fencing that would be along Sunset Drive to screen the backyards, in addition to transition off of the existing single-family homes. And so that's noted in the packet and has come out of some discussion with the community. The other component is the sewer district remnant parcel, as I've kind of called it. So with the alignment of Angel Street, it's left kind of an orphan piece that is non-contiguous to the sewer district. And Symphony has desire to include that within the plan. At the same time, we respect property rights, and it is the sewer district's decision within that. So as conversations develop with city leadership and the sewer district, we want to be a support role and aid in anything we can there. That said, too, we would like to proceed forward with what we know we can control, execute on, and deliver with. And this plan, we are confident we can do that with. And so if additional property becomes available, we will audible based off of what that means at the time. And so Symphony is really excited about this project and the prospect of what we are hopeful to bring to the community. We have, and regardless of what we build, I'm confident that our homes will only add value and character to the community. So that's all I have. After public comment and during your dialogue, if I can have the ability to answer any questions, I'd greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, great, thank you. All right, so at this point, we're gonna open up our public comment section. Let me just give a little bit of instruction there. Anyone who is here who would like to make public comments will be allowed to come up here to the microphone, and you will have 3 minutes to make any comments that you would like to make. We ask that you state your name when you come up. Just a note, during your public comments, we as a planning commission do not answer questions. We want you to be able to use all of the time and not have us, talking over your time and any of that kind of stuff. So you are free to pose questions, but do not expect any kind of dialogue during that time. And hopefully we'll be able to address any of those issues afterwards once that time is done. I think that's it. So having said that, we'll go ahead and open up the public comment portion. Anyone who would like to come up?
Good evening, Mr. Chairperson and members of the commission. My name is Paul Belknap. I live at 1086 Sunset Drive, and I have a question, and I realize you said you don't answer questions, but Mr. Chairperson, my presentation, I believe, will take more than 3 minutes. I have two people who have assigned me their time, Lauren Starkey and Cindy Jenkins. I will try to be as expeditious as possible, but under the Roberts rules, that is acceptable to do, and I would request that as I proceed quickly, sir. So,
very good. Go ahead.
First of all, it was indicated by the Community Development Director, Melinda, that the general plan calls for this area to have maintained a small town atmosphere, quote unquote, and to maintain the existing character. And the development plan, the draft of it that was attached to the public area that we could see, indicates at the end, quote, "The city expressly finds that the development of the community promotes the development of the community," quote unquote. So this is referred to as the community, promotes the creation of a desirable residential community in an appropriate location. And I submitted a letter, I don't know if you received it, but it was written December 1st, attempting to show an intentional effort that was undertaken at the request of the city back in the 2000 time period, where there were public meetings, and then there was a request and a direction to meet in homes. About 15 homes in this area down in West Kaysville. The result of that was then reported to the city, and that resulted in a master plan and a decision about what the density would be in this particular area. So I refer to that, I think is still relevant even though there's been changes and updates when we talk about the existing character, because we are talking about an area that's been developed that involves at least 300 acres. If you take the area from Angel Street south and go to the north where that was involved and up across the old DRNG tracks, all of that area has followed that master planning. So with that being said, I want to just touch on a couple of issues that I don't think that this results in abiding by and promoting the existing character of West Kaysville. And this is not a NIMBY approach. This is something that's real, that's been placed, that's been put in place, and I believe should continue. So the second point I want to just touch on is I was very confused, having been at the last meeting, when this community, which is now 14.7 acres, where previously it was 52 acres. The 14.7 is approximately 630,000 square feet. The 38 acres left that's not part of this is approximately 1,634,000 square feet. And we don't have anything on paper to indicate what the zoning and what the other standards would be in the other phases that they call Horizon West. We do have, in this community, they call it a community amenity space that is approximately 6,000 square feet out of a 632,000 square foot proposed development. And to me, that does not promote the existing character, the country atmosphere, and the density issues that exist and have been built on down there. Now, it's been talked about in the development agreement and the roads. I'm going to pass that. There are some things that I would submit to you, and I don't know what you have that the public doesn't have, but in the development agreement that's on the site, the website of the city, there is no site plan product type that is provided for us to look at. We saw pictures today, but it's not part of the development agreement. I submit to you that the side yard of 5 feet does not abide by the existing community types. Private streets where there's no parking allowed, yet there is going to be rental available. This is going to be a parking nightmare down in this area. So what I would like to say is I don't sit here and say that there has been an intentional bait and switch, but without seeing the whole development, without seeing on paper what is being proposed and promised, in my opinion, it leaves you in a situation where you are approving a community with a whole bunch of land that we don't know what's going to happen on it, but yet they're asking for an R16 zone. And the R16 zone, if approved here, could simply be put through the next 38 acres. And I believe you are entitled to see that. And I believe as a citizen group, we're entitled to see what they are proposing for those other 38 acres. So I would propose, with all due respect, that what ought to happen here is that this ought to be voted down or at a minimum tabled until there is a complete plan. I met with Bruce Robinson. He indicated that they had the issue worked out with the equestrian center. I see nothing mentioned in the development agreement about the equestrian center, which was a huge aspect when this whole area was developed and part of the open space. No mention of that. With that, how much time have I used, Mr. Packer?
Well, yeah.
Pardon?
You've got 1 minute left.
All right, I'm going to sit down and let somebody else speak and use my other minute later if necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Belknap.
For that accommodation.
Chair Packer, if I could for a second before the next speaker comes up. Will Mr. Belknap's letter be entered into the record of this meeting?
All of the public comments that have been emailed to us, including Mr. Belknap's letter, will be compiled and forwarded to the city council in the packet when this goes to city council. We do that every time there's a public hearing. But his comments that he just stated will be included in the minutes.
Right, but his letter will be included too. I just wanted to ask that because his letter, again, affected me when I read it, and I think it's powerful. I think it's a powerful speech as far as anything goes. He could have just read the letter when he walked up here, and I'm sorry, I know it's a public forum, but I believe he makes a lot of very valid points. That's why I was wondering if it would be in there.
So they will be accessible to the city council and
Yes, I mean, we
so.
generally do not include the emails and letters that are submitted in the minutes. But the comments that Mr. Belknap just made will be included in the minutes.
Okay.
But again, those emails and those letters do get forwarded to the city council and becomes part of that public record of the packet.
All right, let's continue with
Thank
our, thank you, yes, sir. Let's continue with the public comment. Who would like to come up next?
Hi, I'm having my husband pass these out. You may have seen these. My name is Jackie Jones, and thank you so much for your time. I did send a letter in today, and I would like to make sure that I don't miss any of the things. And also, my husband did say that he would like to give me his time because it will take a few more minutes for myself. Okay, so some of the things that are a concern to me, and I was, my husband and I are a resident down in West Kaysville and moved in just when everything was crashing in 2007, which was crazy, and there were 19 homes for sale. And I developed the 3 lots that are right directly across the street from this place. And I was working, and I can't remember Andy's last name, but during that time, I had to conform with the same rules that were the R120, which is 0.46 acre, and also the 30. And one of the things I wanted to bring up on here is on the Kaysville zoning district regulations right now, the schedule, it's not 32, it's 30 for residential and for, for single family dwellings, and I put that on your packet as well. So I had to abide by that and not go over 30. I have a European style home that has some pretty high peaks as well, but one of the things in our meetings is that he was trying to accommodate, or the Symphony was trying to accommodate, was the I think it was a 16-12 pitch, where I have like 12 or 20-12 pitches. So that really isn't the issue necessarily. It could just take a little bit of an engineering modification. So it's just feels like we're being pushed and pushed as far as those regulations go and what we had to abide by. One of the things, there are two things that I just wanted to address very quickly. With the PRUD overlay, that also gives a lot of open doors. You know, I didn't even understand as even a builder exactly what the PRUD overlay meant, but it does say this. It says planned unit development is a flexible zoning approach allowing developers to mix housing types, open spaces, and amenities. And they also will often do an HOA. However, neighbors should be concerned and engaged because PRUDs can significantly alter neighborhoods' characters, density, traffic, and amenities, requiring them to understand project details, attend public meetings, and such, and make sure that we understand all of these things moving forward. And you know, not in an emotional state, but we have worked very hard and abided by these things to keep this the feel that we worked so very hard to achieve. As a builder, I made sure that I was not making my neighbors angry. I had to take less of perhaps monetary gain. Am I down to 13 seconds, or do I get an extra 3 minutes? Well, that's what we're discussing.
Yeah.
My husband
Please
was,
go ahead
If you
and
might,
advise us a little bit.
that
on this.
the bylaws say that a speaker time limit is 3 minutes. The chair can decide all points of procedure and order, so I think you could waive that and use Robert's rules as a reference, but we're not required to follow Robert's rules, so it's really up to you.
Yeah, we kind of had that, starting to have that discussion as to whether or not people are allowed to cede time to other people. And a lot of cities that's specifically prohibited. I'll allow you to have a little bit more time here to finish your comments. And
Chair,
we'll move
maybe
forward.
one more comment. The city council bylaws do not allow yielding time.
Okay, that's good to know. We'll probably try to adopt that as a...
okay, so the part that is very important to me also is the traffic study that was done during 2019 to 2023, I believe, which is not current. This is extremely important. So on our page, I wanted you just to look at this. On your pages right here, this is approximately the homes. Every dot is a home that would be affected by this development, which is great. We want to have development there. We understand that has to happen, but we also want it to be able to abide by our rules as well, or the city's rules as we had to live by it. One other thing is this. On the second page here, this is the amount of homes that will be built into that size. And it's on your page, hopefully you can see that. This is the just under 300 homes into the 52 acres, if that is, I mean, and whether or not it's an R17, that is their goal. So that's very visual. Last thing is this, and it's so important, is that there was called for a calming study to study the traffic issue. This study that was done was before the interchange from 177 came in and connected to Sunset. There are two of them on this last page. My daughter and I went out and we counted cars because we're like, we can't get out of our driveway. This has become incredibly difficult. So during this time, it was a day that I was out there doing yard work, and I was like, I have got to count these because they were just whizzing by. So I started click, click. And as you can tell, on this sampling right down here, the manual sampling right here, every 10 minutes, there was an average of 100 cars that went by. Every 10 minutes in front of our house right now. That is right where this road is going to be coming out. One of our biggest issues is that road emptying on a blind corner there, and it is. We've had a child hit by a car. We've had dogs hit. There's been car accidents. As it is right now. To add another, oh, I'm done. Anyway, if you could just look at that. I appreciate your time, and we would like to ask for an independent traffic study before we would allow that opening road.
Thank you.
My name is Keith Halls. I live at 1787 South Sunset Drive. If you look at your map there, where the road is going to connect Sunset straight across, there's a grove of trees there. That's my driveway. I'm not a person that sits at a desk and analyzes data and determines what is safe and what isn't safe. I've lived there for 40 years. I've raised 8 children there and had to teach those children how to negotiate that blind corner with going downhill and how to negotiate that safely. And I access that road several times a day, and at my age, it's getting more of a challenge every day. My concern is that these people who are going to move into there, they're going to be my neighbors, and hopefully they're going to be my friends. Now, you've got a mother whose kids are late for school. She loads up those kids, they're screaming and yelling. She goes out to enter Sunset Drive. You got a fence there you're going to put. That's another blind corner, or blind access to this blind corner. Now, she's got a carload of kids and she pulls out there. That's T-boning. That's serious accident. I've heard very little about going to Antelope Drive, going to Angel Street and accessing this entire subdivision onto Angel Street, which makes so much more sense. You've got a beautiful roundabout there that is designed for safety and access. That mother could take those kids, go to that roundabout, and go up Sunset and be a whole lot safer than creating a left-hand turn there. Now you've got kids coming from Farmington High School coming home. You've got parents coming home from work. Again, they're going to access that driveway on a blind turn, and it's a left-hand turn again. Those are not safe. And that's my concern. These are my friends and neighbors. And I would encourage you to focus more on getting access to Angel. In our meeting with Matt, he had indicated if we could get access to Angel, he would do away with the access to Sunset Drive. I know you got a hard decision. I appreciate all the time and effort you put into this, but we need to think about the people who are going to live there and what's the safest way for them to live their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Lee Sim. I live just a few blocks north of this development area. I'm a retired civil engineer, and as I listen to the discussion tonight, I guess the question that comes to my mind, and it's just a question I pose because I didn't hear it answered, was about the impact of this development on water pressures in the area for the culinary water system. And I just thought that the infrastructure question was kind of glossed over as to whether the main lines on Sunset Drive are sized adequately. So adding another 46 homes in this area won't affect the water pressure. I understand the concept that the quantity of water that the city has is adequate. I just wonder about the size of the infrastructure, the main lines in Sunset Drive. So I just posed that question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. David, I'm glad you got my email that we wear the blue quarter zips tonight. You look particularly good. I'm Terrell Robb. I live on Appaloosa, which is just a few blocks east of this development. And I wanted to thank Symphony for coming and meet with the neighbors and trying to address the concerns. And we are not in opposition to this new build, this new construction. We're just in opposition to this rezoning. What you see up there is the yellow rezoning, right? The R16. I think it's just too small for the area. All the houses surrounding it are the 0.46, and I don't think it really it goes in with the aesthetics or with the master plan that we have. And I also know that some of my fellow citizens who are here tonight won't come up and speak, but I would ask that they just raise their hand if they're here in opposition of this rezone. And so I think you're hearing pretty well from the community. I'm not here to speak for Cindy. So I'm here to speak as a citizen. So you see we're here. Thank you for hearing our concerns on this. And as I had an English teacher once say, stand up so you can be heard. Speak clearly so that people can understand what's being said, and then finally sit down so you can be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Howes. I live on Seabiscuit Drive right here in this area that's being discussed. Second, a lot of the comments said today, I mean, we're not opposed to development of the area, just the density that's being proposed. I agree with what Mr. Belknap said earlier. I think this is just an attempt to get something going and an attempt to hide the totality of the development that they want to get in this whole area. At this density right here, it's roughly 500 houses in the whole area. 500 houses, 1,000 cars on day one. How many of those houses are going to have high school kids too driving around? I mean, we're looking at 1,500 cars as soon as this development's all put in. Traffic impacts all areas, not just the intersections that you develop. In this area, there's a lot of streets that already can't handle the traffic they have. Sunset and Western is a nightmare certain times a day. 950 West and Sunset, awful certain times a day. You can wait up to 10 minutes just to turn left at that intersection. That's without all these additional cars that will go in if this development is approved. I'd like to discuss Seabiscuit also. It was mentioned that Seabiscuit was planned to be a significant public access street with a minimum of 41 feet. It is not 41 feet, it is 30 feet. I live on the street, I've measured it myself multiple times. This is not a significant access street. If all these houses go in, and the only outlets they have are onto Sunset, that little outlet onto Angel, and then north onto Seabiscuit, eventually there will be a stop sign, or there will be a stoplight at Sunset and at Western. There will be no avoiding it. With the traffic there will eventually be one there. And if you want to go north, you're going to go north onto Seabiscuit to get to the stoplight so you can get out of the neighborhood. This is a street that's 31 feet currently. It is not the 41 as depicted earlier. So I want that in the record that it is not designed to be a public access road that has all these cars going on it. It was meant to be a residential road from the beginning. Yeah. Seconding what everyone has said earlier, we're just not happy with the density of this area and the amount of houses and cars that are ultimately going to go in, because traffic is the biggest problem and safety is everyone's concern. So please take that into account. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If no one else comes up, we'll close it. So, okay, good.
Just for kicks. My name's Tim Hirsch. We live at 1883 South Sunset, so we live right at Sunset and Shepherd, right on the corner. I've lived pretty much my whole life in Davis County on quarter-acre lots, or somewhere similar to that. And we decided we wanted to move out into a less dense area where we had some property with, and we didn't have neighbors everywhere, and less traffic. And we had less traffic when we moved in, but then all the development came. Now we've got a roundabout right at our place, and traffic has significantly increased on Sunset. There, more people come from Burton to get on the freeway now, so we got more traffic going both directions than we ever had. And you know, one of the things I see here, you know, and is I see a lot of people that love the low density area they live in. And I only see a couple people here, but it's really the money that wants the development. So I see Symphony Homes, who's a little bit surprised at the opposition that they're getting, but they've made a significant investment in land. And when you make an investment, you want a return. And they're trying to get a return on their money. And, you know, the money is here in favor. The citizens of Kaysville are here in opposition. So, and the people who are going to move in those houses don't really exist right now. They need to be marketed and sold to. So I don't see any of those people here either. So, but thanks for everything. And it's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Dave McSwain, and I live right across the street from this also on Sunset Drive. I'd like to back up a couple of the statements that were made here tonight so far. One is, I don't think anybody ought to approve anything until we see what the whole development looks like. Sorry. I think this is just another continuation of interrupting everybody's life down there. My wife and I left for 2 years. This debate started a year before that. I came back with my wife, and we're still in the middle of this right now. This already has a zoning to it. When they bought the property, they understood the zoning to it. We met with Matt the other day, and by the way, thanks, Matt. I will have to tell you, I enjoyed that. And I made some remarks the other time he was here that probably aren't fair. I'd like to correct one of them. Symphony does have a great product. They do have a great product, and if this thing all looked like the preserve, I would probably say, I really don't care about the zone if it looks like the preserve, because the preserve's on a 3rd-acre lot, which has already been developed up north of us there, not on these small lots, and I think everybody would be happy, and there would be no devaluation to the homes east of the property there. The other thing I will say, you can probably bend about any study you want to tell you the story you want. All of us are bright enough in that thing. Stats do this thing right here. I can tell you that Sunset is significantly more busy than when that traffic study was done, and I would like to see another study done on this thing. If you live down there and you see what this looks like at peak time of driving, entrance into that thing off Sunset is going to be a nightmare, and I'm not kidding you. There are no left-hand turn lanes on Sunset. I can tell you right now, even this morning at about 3 o'clock, coming south on Sunset, there was a person turning left into a subdivision, and they had 13 cars backed up before she could make the left-hand turn. There's no way to get out around it unless you want people to cut out to the right in the biking lanes. This street can handle capacity, but it was not made for something like this. We do not even have the count total of what it's going to mean when I-15 connects coming down to the other highway now, which is going to be open in a little while. I think we're going to have more traffic coming down this way because it is a nice way to get home before it opened. Angel was already developed with this circle going down to take the brunt off Sunset. I simply think that if we can't figure a way to get out on Angel, this ought to be tabled until we can. We've already told Matt we would go with him to the sewer, and does that mean my time's up?
Yeah.
I vote right now we can go to 5 minutes. Anybody with me?
At least there's not a trap door.
That's right.
Yeah, okay, I get it. So I think you get the gist of my comment. I just think we need an update on that. I don't think that's fair, and our livability on that is going downhill every time you add something this up north, and especially across here. We'll support Matt and what he wants to do in lots of things here, except for that awful R16, Matt.
Thank you, sir.
Go away.
Thank you.
And we'll help him get in there, go away if we can.
Do we have any other comments? I got a few good.
I'm Allison Stenquist, and I live in the existing home there, and I mentioned some of this at the last meeting, but my husband and I and his family Phase 1 and Phase 2 of this development are property that, that my husband and I and his family owned. And we met with Symphony prior to the sale of that land, and they committed at that time to do a development that was half an acre minimum to a third, possibly a fourth. And if those commitments had been honored at that time, there would not be, or were being honored now, there would not be the opposition that you're seeing. And we did, meet with our neighbors, and Symphony did when that was their plan, and the neighbors did not oppose this plan. I oppose the R16 zoning. It's not compatible with the RA zoning, the 1A zones, the A5 zones that are in this area. It's a huge step down in size, and there is no accommodation really for agriculture, which is pretty heavy in this area. There's really not much accommodation for open space either, which, Kaysville is losing the opportunity to maintain agriculture and open space. High density is the drum, but in that we lose our agriculture and our open space. And I think there are so many unanswered questions with this development, preliminary engineering that we have no idea what that will be, roads that are non-existent. And so it's almost like it's a half-baked proposition at this point. And so I do oppose that R16 zoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jill Dredge, and I don't live in this area, but live in Kaysville and love Kaysville. I'd just like to ask Symphony Homes if they can address if this is a PID, a public infrastructure district, and that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Mike Jensen. I live at 377 West 1750 South. I'm here with my wife. She's the shy one in the family. And anyway, we're here representing Bridle Up Hope Davis County. We are an equine-assisted learning facility that's going to be directly across the street. When we talk about this development in particular, the challenge that I want to extend to the city, in conversations that I've had with both the residents and with Matt and his team, is that this development would look entirely different if Angel Street were resolved. Entirely different. In fact, both expressed that they would be much happier with the solutions as they thought about accessing points off of Angel Street. I know there's conversations going on with the sewer district in the city. I know that the community has said that they are willing to enter those conversations with the sewer district as well as Matt. And I would hope that we would take the time to reflect on the changes that would look, and that everyone at the end would be happier with that result. The only other comment I would share with you, and then I'll be brief and sit down. When we talk about the nature of the community down there, I have enjoyed the conversations that I've had with the community and again with Matt about how we maintain the equestrian presence, which right now is pretty much what we represent. As you look at 550, there's probably, Becky, a dozen people or a dozen residents on that street. And I'd love to introduce you to Phantom and Chief and Bear and Georgia, the horses that exist out there. And think about what this is going to be as an impact to them. There's been a lot of conversations about how we accommodate it, and I welcome those. I think the conversation of Angel Street, they would be much happier with. The community would be much happier with. I think Symphony would as well. So I challenge the city to pause this conversation and pursue the best resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mark True. I live at 1750 South and 350 382 West. Just right adjacent to this property on the east side. My concern, I'd like to echo what, actually first, thank you all for the service you provide to our city. And I know it takes a lot of your time, but my biggest concerns, I'd love to see this be developed and to be homes there. I know a lot of people have shared opinions about the size of the lots. It's my second biggest concern, actually. I think we have a big problem in Kaysville City with traffic already. And each time we add a new community, I don't think we're planning sufficiently elsewhere. I know one person already shared concern about Western Drive and Sunset is a massive safety concern. I don't think we can even abide any new development without considering traffic management there. The left-hand turns are abysmal. It is. My kids are traveling that road every single day to get up to Centennial Junior High. Going south, it's already bad. Just getting on, 950 North to get down to Farmington High School. It's terrible. But putting in a street here that connects to Sunset feels just like a very bad idea. I'm 100% in favor of everybody else who says let's figure out the Angel Street plan first. If we can figure that out, I would be more than happy to sign off to be fully in support of a community here. We'd love to see new families come in here that would be our future neighbors. I don't love the R16. Very, very against that. I'd love to see an R18. We'd love to see an R110 or whatever that is, 10,000 square feet. But R16, I see a plan like this, and is it really going to be that in the end? I don't know. I guess I'm a little jaded by developers who come in with plans like these. I agree, Symphony does good products. I've purchased their products in the past. But I see these plans up front, and it's almost meaningless to me because at the end of the day, it's rarely ever what gets built. And so, number one, let's address the Angel Street first. If that's done, it resolves my biggest concerns. And number two, we need to have a plan for traffic management along Sunset that's better than what it is now. It's not safe for our residents all across Sunset Drive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I'm Kirk Nacy. The blind corner everybody talks about is my front yard. So I deal with it both ways. My backyard will be on to their number 5 lot. So that's where I'm at. A few things on here I wanted to go over quickly. The height of the buildings. I built a little shed out back. You can see the big black spot there in the middle. I couldn't put a cupola on it because it was over the height. That was a cupola. Now we want to let houses go in and go over the height. I was going over by 3 feet with 3 foot by 3 foot cupola. Actually, I think it was 4 by 4. So, and I was not allowed to do that. So I don't see a reason to let people, continue on with a bunch of houses going over the height. They can design it as I had to, and other people in the neighborhood have had to, within that boundary that is set up by the city already. Second thing I wanted to bring up was the zoning. So you've got 2 different zones in there. The R16 is, I understand they want that down one section and a different zone up another, but zoning the whole thing for small leaves it open later. If it's such agreed to, they have some section smaller, zone it 2 different areas. Just have it separate zonage. Don't just leave it open for interpretation later. Plans change. I know plans change. I know they always have. They always will. I've dealt with Matt here on my property line over the past, during the summer and going on to it. We had an agreement, a verbal agreement. We shook hands on it. That's changed, and to the point where there's actually legal on there. So if there is going to be something on there, I want it down in writing. I don't want it that, it's all 16, but we promise to do this later. I would rather have it set up so that it is set. This is what it is, and that's what they want, and that's what we agreed to. We give it to them. The 1/4 acre lots up there, I'd prefer a 1/3. I understand a 1/4. The lots down at the bottom, they talk about being affordable. Don't fool yourself. They're not going to be affordable. No, nothing out here in West Kaysville is going to be affordable for that. Those will probably be $750 up. And I have a 25-year-old son, he's got a full-time job. He wouldn't be able to buy that. Kaysville is not a first-time home buyers area. It is a second time. So the third point I want to be is the density. When the lots there, the existing homes up there that are within the square are all right around, one's an acre, one's 0.98, and the other one is 1.5. So they're all acreage. It used to be that everything west of Sunset had to be 1 acre, down to half, down, I can see it going down to a third, but going down to anything smaller than that is, I think, a little bit too much for the area with what we all have. Horses, animals, I have horses, you've heard mine.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sapientia Fernandez. I live in 1883 South Sunset Drive. I know everybody's comments here are very rational and logical, and it's very easy to probably find ways to quantify traffic data, but it's very hard to quantify stress when you have to back out of your driveway, or if you have two kids or one son going to Centennial and another one going this upcoming year, and all you're going to do is cross your fingers every day to hope that they come back to you safely. We moved from Eaglewood to Kaysville because of the expansiveness of the neighborhood. Even up living in Eaglewood, we didn't have that expansiveness. I know living up in the mountains, you think it's all great, but our neighbor was our window was 5 feet away. And the reason why it's hard to quantify things is I don't come from the United States. I lived in the Philippines all my life. And if you've never lived in high-density housing, you will never understand what it feels like. So when you're given the opportunity and to be afforded space and to be able to give that to your children, of course, you become very invested in protecting that. So I feel like with my neighbors, what we're trying to do is protect what Kaysville has been marketing, right, to us. A great neighborhood, low-density housing, expansiveness, and safety. Because what does expansiveness provide? It's a sense of safety for your kids to walk to school or for you to just be able to live, the way that you envision your life to be. I don't have any rational comments or logical statements. I'm coming from a place of deep emotion because living in Kaysville for 5 years, I really felt that with my neighbors, they're very warm. And I'm just wondering that with all these families that are coming to move here in those 46 homes, are they also marketed the information that when they back out of their driveway, that it's not as peaceful as they think it is? Because right now, Sunset Drive, it's really quite hard to just drive or get out of my own house. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Ovison. I live on Sunset Drive, just across the street from where that entry exit would be there in the community. I own a tree care business, and before my day can begin or end, I have to back a truck and trailer in and out of that driveway onto Sunset Drive. And I've waited up to 2 minutes before. I know that doesn't sound like a real big deal, but I want everybody to feel like what 2 minutes feels like waiting. Can't really do anything. Yeah, we're really gonna do this. There you go, Mark. Yeah, this is what my life feels like. You kind of want to get into something. Oh, there's another car.
That was for me, not you.
So yeah, I can't even wait the 2 minutes. It can get worse, or we could do it in a more thought out, methodical, planned out way, by waiting for results to come back from the sale or the opening up of that space to the south of this area, and we could just plan this out in a really great way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name's Cindy Jenkins. I live at 1310 Saratoga Court. I gave Mr. Belknap my 3 minutes, but he had 1 minute left. Would it be okay if I spoke in that 1 minute?
We'll allow it, yeah.
Thank you. Back in September, right around when school started, I live at Sunset and Western, and it is atrocious, as most people have talked about. So I asked the city to do a traffic study. In order to do that, I had to fill out some paperwork, and I had to sit on the corner and count traffic for an hour. I counted 865 cars that crossed between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning when children were starting to go to school, and people just jumping out. I think I watched almost 6 accidents from people trying to cross the road. The traffic study that came back later stated that there were 30,000 cars that went across that intersection in a 1 week time. And I'm not against the houses going in. I just know how busy Sunset is. I know how much busier it has gotten since 950 opened. And I know how many teenagers drive that road, and it just seems really unsafe to have an opening right there on Sunset Drive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Chair and Planning Commission members. My name is Matthew Mann. I live at 1795 South Sunset, which is directly, well, the three of us that are here live directly across from the drive and the entry point right there. I support responsible, well-planned development. However, I am in formal opposition to the Symphony development as proposed, including the zoning change and the access onto Sunset Drive. The action before you involves a change from agricultural zoning directly to R16. This represents a significant and abrupt increase in the density and is not consistent with the Kaysville City General Plan for West Kaysville. The general plan calls for lower density residential development with gradual, and I'm going to say gradual, not going from half acre to quarter acre, gradual transitions that reflect roadway capacity and infrastructure limits. This proposal bypasses multiple intermediate residential zones and introduces an intensity of development that was not planned for this area. Zoning entitlements and infrastructure feasibility are inseparable. Approving this change would grant a density entitlement that assumes traffic and access issues can be solved later, even though those issues have not been shown to be safe or workable. Once the zoning is approved, the city's ability to meaningfully address these constraints is greatly reduced. The proposed access onto Sunset Drive further demonstrates why this proposal should not move forward. The Sunset Drive is a collector roadway and already carries high traffic volumes. The posted speed is 30 miles per hour. A traffic calming study was conducted by Kaysville City Police Officer Logan Nichols on December of 2025, directly in front of my home, which was aimed at the blind corner that was discussed earlier by my neighbor. The study documented that the operating speeds were approximately 33 to 38 miles per hour, which is 3 to 8 miles over the posted speed limit, or 10 to 27% faster than the posted speed limit. You know, that's, when you think about it, the percentage, they're almost going 30% faster through that area than the speed limit. Out of a blind corner down a hill. At these speeds, and given the existing roadway geometry and traffic conditions, adequate line of sight and stopping distance are not compatible with adding a new development access. Introducing turning and stopping vehicles here would create unsafe conditions that cannot be corrected through signage, striping, or minor design changes. For these reasons, I respectfully request that the Planning Commission deny the proposed zoning change and eliminate any access from the development onto Sunset Drive. Any future consideration of this property should wait until a safe and appropriate access connection, such as the Shepherd Angel roadway extension, is completed and available. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward and make any comments?
Oh, my name's Boyd Argyle. I live on 550 with the horses. Probably the only one that lives down on that area right now. On Seabiscuit and Mare and Castration Circle. That's what we've called it because they've ruined my access, or will do. But I've heard some good things and some questionable things. We've got a lot of hikers, horse riders down that street. We've got to manage that street somehow. 550 has got to be taken care of to where we can slow the people down. And that's where I access onto the road anyway. Mike does a real good job. He keeps me informed. Sympathy homes, I call them, because they approached me once a year ago. I was out in my yard doing a little work, and they, well, we want to stay in touch with you and keep you informed on what we're trying to do. Have I heard from them? No. If it wasn't for Mike telling me what's going on, I wouldn't know. Because I live by myself and all alone there in the corner, off the beaten path. Been there, done my own grading. City won't acknowledge that street, never has. Take care of my dirt road. So after Woodside ruined it, then now we're gonna go on. So anyway, I think instead of having them pull the wool over our eyes, we need to see the whole picture, not just this little postage stamp that they're calling. We need to see the whole picture before we make good decisions. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we will go ahead and close the public comment section of this meeting. It's normal at this point to have our applicant come back up and address anything that he feels is worth addressing, and then we'll get into the conversation by the commission.
I'll be quick. There was a question about if this is a PID or public improvement district. It is not, and not contemplated either. On the traffic note, I've stated what findings we have. I don't discount the emotion and the experiences that everyone's had. I also definitely see some enforcement opportunities as well. And so, and the question about the east versus west, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, there are unique challenges related to both sides, and we are doing everything we can as Symphony to mitigate, resolve those items. That way we can come back with confidence. I'll personally tell you, splitting the project into two is not making my life easier. It's not the ideal, but I know that this project can be serviced based off of the both demands and the infrastructure in taking into account what we are proposing. And so with that, I really, I'm here for dialogue and commentary as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure we'll have a few questions. So yeah, we'll get into it and discuss this. Of course, we come with all of your comments. We appreciate those that have been sent in, as well as those of you that have spoken here tonight. We try to pull in our experience with other projects and look at all the different things. We may not address every single item and concern, but we'll do our best to take into consideration everything. And one thing is that people talked a lot about the splitting of the project, and I had some questions with that too coming into it. They do, though, have the right to come in with just this section and say, we're looking at just this section, and with future parts of the project, they will have to go through the same process, and with public comment, with the Planning Commission, with the City Council. And so, we may not address much with that other section, just because we're really going to focus on the proposal that we have here on the table. But I do hear you with the comments that we've heard tonight. What do we got? Anybody want to?
So it seems like a lot of the concerns that were expressed tonight had to do with traffic circulation, street layout. Melinda, I'm wondering if you could maybe just address the issue with connecting 550 to Angel and where things are at with regard to that. Because when you look at this, that does seem to make a lot of sense. It would help the situation out for the future development of this area, and particularly given what everybody's been saying about how overloaded Sunset is already. But what's that situation?
First of all, I want to clarify that this slide shows that Seabiscuit between Mare Drive and Angel Street is planned to be 66 feet. North of Mare Drive, it is not a significant local street, so I think there was a misunderstanding of what I was explaining. It would be planned to be 66 feet from Mare Drive down into that connection at Angel Street. So what exists currently in that neighborhood is definitely not 66 feet. Agree on that. Symphony Homes attempted earlier, well, not this year, late last year, to acquire a portion of the sewer district's property in order to complete that connection from 550 down to Angel Street, and the sewer district was not interested in selling their property to Symphony Homes. We have engaged in discussions with the sewer district and are hopeful that the right-of-way can be acquired. We are hoping to do that in a friendly manner. I think the city feels that connection is incredibly important. It's been planned, as I said, it's been in our city code for I don't know how many years to have that connection. There are mechanisms for the city to get connections when property owners are not willing, but that does take political will. The city does have the authority to do eminent domain. That process is called condemnation. but we are hopeful that we can engage in discussions with the sewer district, and my understanding, I've not been involved in conversations to that extent with the sewer district, but I think they are open to selling property. It just has not been able to come to fruition. So we do need to have some additional conversations with the sewer district. With the holidays, we were not able to get one on the books, but we are working to get something set up. And I think that in an ideal world, that Angel Street connection would be created. I think that will happen, but it's a long-standing process, especially when you're dealing with public bodies. The sewer district has monthly meetings. Council meets twice a month, so it's kind of right. Their staff has to work with their board, who is the decision maker on those types of things. So that is kind of a slow process. But I believe that will happen. We're hopeful that that will happen, but it just has not been able to come to fruition yet. And also, it's like we can't require Symphony to connect into property that they don't own. So, you know, it's tricky because, again, like I was speaking earlier, we can only really logically include in a development agreement what Symphony can reasonably influence and control, and that's their own property. So when we're speaking about somebody else's property, you know, in fact, there was concerns with some of the previous versions that had been promoted that, you know, appeared to be connections into people's property that they didn't own, and that was something that people didn't appreciate. So we want to be sensitive to that. The sewer district owns it. It's their prerogative. I think they will hopefully come to a place where they, you know, can understand that that connection is important to the community, to the development.
Can you show us again? I know we've seen it before, but remind us where those little parcels are that are the sewer district parcels.
Okay, I think I figured out this wonky. What I should have done is maybe gone to the county maps, but these are the 3 parcels that we're speaking about that Symphony owns. When this Angel Street connection or this extension here was constructed, not last year, the year prior, I think it was, that kind of isolated a north and a south half of these 2 parcels. So this is a parcel that the sewer district owns. This is another larger parcel the sewer district owns. And it's this triangular portion that kind of comes all the way over into here that we need that connection or that property to be dedicated down 550 to connect into that Angel Street.
So where 550 connects to Angel Street is not sewer district, it's just this triangular space of land. Is that correct or no?
No, this triangular space is owned by the sewer district.
There's like a skinny wedge that extends all the way.
They couldn't connect here.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's honestly, it's not much. I think it's about 13 feet wide. And then of course we would need the full width of the 66 feet. It's not a lot of property, but you know, we can't force the sewer district to sell it to Symphony. Symphony attempted to purchase it and the sewer district didn't want to sell to Symphony.
A lot of the issues with Sunset, I mean, I've been in this business for a while and dealt with some rapidly growing areas. And part of the problem becomes that, you know, whether you call it a lack of planning up front or just not the opportunity, but you have existing streets in many areas, and then as the growth occurs, pretty soon you overwhelm the existing streets. You either need to build more streets or you need to widen what you got, or maybe a combination of both. And I mean, it looks like we're trying to address to some extent additional streets here by the Angel Street and some of the other work here. But Sunset, you know, it sounds like really, because I don't know that we're going to stop growth. We don't have a lot of property in Kaysville left to develop, so I don't know that it's going to be real impactful, but there's plenty of other growth around in the area. And about the only solution left there is to expand Sunset. And that's not going to be very popular either, because you're going to really affect a lot of properties if you try to expand Sunset. So it's one of those conundrums. It's just, you know, you're danged if you do and danged if you don't.
I will say that one development that has come in since, I think most of you were here in August, when I was here in August, and we were all here in August discussing the last application. The city has secured funding to construct Angel Street, the rest of the connection up from the roundabout to north of Sunset Equestrian Estates. We received a grant from the county. So we do have funding for that.
Okay.
However, we don't own all of the property to construct the road. So the existing equestrian center some of their property would need to be acquired in order to construct that connection all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
So good news is that we have the funding for the construction, but bad news is we don't own all the property.
Sorry, can you explain to me just a little bit on the directions of the equestrian center on what we're looking at and where you're saying the funding that you've secured but doesn't quite own all the property?
Well, you can kind of see here where the Angel Street connection would come up, and it would really, I think it clips a part of this building, and let me click on that parcel.
You probably need to show where Angel Street comes in. But
I mean, I don't have a rendering of where Angel Street would come in. But
but isn't it, if you go north on this photo?
Yeah, the other section of Angel Street where it would eventually connect.
Right there.
Okay, I see. So up into here. Yeah. In fact, UDOT owns some of these parcels. They're remnants from West Davis Corridor. They are going to be conveying those to the city as well. But we don't, right, it's kind of this area right through here on that equestrian center property that we don't own and would need to have that. But eventually it would wrap all the way up into here and connect into Angel Street.
Okay, that helps. Thank you. So there's two connections that proposed with the sewer district in the area, and the other obstruction is the equestrian center.
Well, Symphony's proposing a connection here onto Sunset. We would like to get a connection from 550 all the way down into Angel Street.
But all of Angel Street doesn't need to be constructed to make that connection, correct?
For the 550 West connection, no, it doesn't.
Right.
We just need that small portion.
Right.
Correct, yes. Yeah, just that, like I said, I think it's about 13 feet wide, just right through here, and 66 feet is what we need.
Can you speak to the city's preference on the connectivity? If we can look at the site plan, their proposed plan. I know there's a lot of the community that would like to wait and see if we can, get that Angel and eliminate the access onto Sunset. But my question is, there's not a lot of connectivity, and you know, and in respect to the safety concerns, but is it the city's preference that the connection onto Sunset didn't need to happen? Or if Angel connects, would you still want that
The city
outlet?
would prefer to have both connections.
It seems like
one
they
at
would.
Sunset and one at 550, or at Seabiscuit.
So even if the connection were made to Angel, you'd likely still keep this other connection as well.
Yes.
And then these little stubs, are they intended to be outletting to Angel Street? If in the future, or it's just, just, I'm just curious what the
Those stubs.
purpose of the little stubs.
Turn around for emergency vehicles and things.
Down on the.
Like 41 and
on the
42.
orange property.
Those little street stubs.
You have the hammerhead.
The hammerheads,
there,
yeah.
And then there's another little,
Oh.
almost like a connection there.
Well, so the sewer district has some asks if they are to grant the property for the right of way, and I think some of those I can let Matt explain, but I think some of that is anticipating if some of those asks come to fruition. The sewer district has said that they want their property rezoned, but they've also still said that they're not interested in selling the property to anyone at this point. May at some point in the future, 10, 15 years down the line, but they're not interested in selling the remainder of this space. They will entertain selling and I hope I'm conveying all this accurately, because again, I've not had direct discussions with the sewer district. This is what's been conveyed to me. But I think they are willing to entertain selling the property that's needed for the right-of-way for 550/Seabiscuit. But they want certain things in exchange.
The viability of that other property, the additional property, likely.
So I'll let Matt explain the layout a little bit more.
To your question, those are hammerheads primarily, but they serve a dual purpose. So the hammerhead in front of lot 40, it has the ability to connect south into the sewer district. We want to be a good neighbor and try and resolve this, but at the same time, it's hard to work towards what you don't know quite yet. So I think there's opportunity, but right now we're working with what I know that Symphony can control and deliver on. So.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of things. I've got lots of scribbles. Let's see if I can follow them. Can I go clear back to the introductory comments? Melinda, you mentioned, I believe, that we needed to have 3 access points, but we could do 2, and they could do 30 lots with 1. Did I hear that correctly?
So in order to have more than 30 units, fire code requires at least 2 points of ingress, egress.
Okay, so were this body to recommend and the city council approve, they could build 29 homes.
They could
with a
build
single
30.
connection.
They couldn't build 31, they could build 30.
Thank you. Okay. The Hales engineering study on page 13 talks about best practice having deceleration lanes, and they specifically call that out, both on Sunset and at the time they believed Angel was connecting to, and they would require that there. Do you know, is there someone here who knows, is that deceleration lane part of the American Institute standard that we've referred to several times?
Oh, AASHTO?
Yeah, it is.
It is?
I mean, AASHTO would have standards for decel lanes and acceleration lanes, absolutely, but
Because
what those are, I could not speak to.
Hales Engineering mentions it, says, yeah, that's the best practice, but yeah, there's none of those on Sunset now, so let's just they just kind of gloss over it. So I think that bears our, whatever we do, we need to look at using that study. There was a comment by a commission member tonight that widening Sunset wouldn't be very popular, but planning for deceleration lanes or whatever we can do now while we have the land and the opportunity should definitely be a part of any motion or whatever we do. We've danced around something tonight, and I won't be very popular with this comment. I think many of the public comments are don't let them have access to Sunset Drive. Well, whether you push them to Angel Street or Seabiscuit, then Western, they're still going to transit Sunset Drive if they're going south. Or the example of, an example was given of the kids being late for school. If whether I come out on Sunset or I come out on Angel, I've still got to go down Sunset to get to Centennial Junior High or wherever I'm going. So one thought that I think really needs exploring, particularly now, I walked this area and I didn't get out my tape, but I agree that Seabiscuit is not as wide as other streets in that neighborhood. And I'm really scratched my head about what those Jersey barriers are doing and what's happening with Mare Drive. So that has to be looked at. It's so logical. So I'm sorry, but rather than have one access onto Sunset, I believe two would be better than one. Or at least we need to explore Mare Drive as a requirement. You know, we all pine for the days when Sunset was a sleepy street. My wife and I used to ride our bikes down from East Kaysville to cruise Sunset because it was so nice and calm and make our way out. But that's no longer the case. And pushing cars down the dirt road onto Seabiscuit, onto Kentucky Derby, onto Western Drive, and then to intersect at Western and Sunset is not an option. And by the way, the Hales engineering study does contemplate that and does have a car count at the intersection of Kentucky Derby and Western. This development draining that way. A couple of other public comments, just maybe this will assuage fears, maybe not. But tonight's consideration does go to 14.7 acres. And this commission member and the smarter professionals on this commission, professional planners, our eyes are open and we recognize that whatever we do, the balance of development will happen, and we need to make sure there are adequate street connections and safety considerations. Also, the development agreement contains an exhibit, and it must be followed, and they cannot, there was a comment made that if we approve it, that they could change on us. Not so. They can't suddenly build an R16 unit, say where lot 5 is. The city would have that ability. So we have 22 homes and 23, I'm going to call them smaller homes. And I don't know off the top if Symphony has built on 0.14 acre lots before. And it would be worth a field trip for me to see what a 0.14 acre home looks like, because that's what's proposed on the south end. And we're not ready, this commissioner is not ready to approve or recommend that we forward this to the city council to approve at this point. But I am interested in seeing what a 0.14 home looks like, what the product would look like. And I recognize most of what you're building is about, if I've done my arithmetic right, about 0.52 of an acre. The other 22. Please.
So we do have a couple of communities right now where we build on less than half-acre lots, 30-acre lots even. Specifically, we have a project in Lehigh that is in that 0.14 and actually smaller. So that project specifically has 50-foot frontages and 90-foot depths. What's contemplated with these lots is 60 to 70-foot widths and 110 exceeding 160 in depth. And so we have and are currently building in with a product size of this. Another one that we have is in Saratoga Springs. We're building down by the temple, slightly different product, but it's also in the 7,000 to 8,000 square foot range as well. And I would be more than willing to coordinate a field trip.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And I would do that. And finally, in order to do the feasibility here,
yeah.
You've done some numbers. Tell me what, I'm within 50 grand.
Yeah.
What would a price point be for lot 43 or 32 or 31?
So the brown lots along the south, we anticipate that those will hover around $1 million. Okay. And so depending on plan, type, square footage, third cars.
So
et cetera,
0.14 of an acre.
Yep.
With my back to the sewer plant, $1 million. Brave.
There's an element of that for sure.
Yeah.
I think that there is some precedent in Kaysville. So cottage lots in the Hill Farms neighborhood are on about, I'm thinking approximately the same square footage. The lot I live on is about a 6,000 square foot lot. And you could go see those, which I think there was a lot of opposition to those initially going into agricultural property, but have been just a beautiful, desirable neighborhood. And I'd like to suggest that because these small lots are not going to be affordable, doesn't mean we should build bigger lots, right? Bigger homes, $2 and $3 million homes, doesn't really help our situation. More inventory, smaller lots, helps regardless of the ridiculous price of homes, right?
Yeah, and I would echo that. There's been discussion about what was planned years ago and the commitments that were made, but plans change over time. That's why we update them as conditions change, and boy, have conditions changed. And the cost of housing has become incredibly unaffordable. I think it's a valid point to say that these might not necessarily be affordable, and I think that's a good point. But by the same token, one of the things that drives affordability is inventory, what number of houses that are available. I also think that there's a lot made, and this is drawn on my experience of having done this for a number of years, that people oftentimes say that, all the new development needs to reflect what the existing development is. Otherwise, it deteriorates the neighborhood. And it doesn't. It really doesn't. I have some lots, a subdivision, fairly new subdivision close in the area where I live, where the lots are like 6,000, 7,000 square feet. They're not affordable either because the houses are pretty dang big, and the cost of those houses is more than the existing homes in my neighborhood. So it's not the lot size that drives that. The lot size does help, though, because the cost of land is one of the major factors now in the cost of housing. So reducing the amount of land that you put into housing certainly helps with that. You know, this may get me in trouble, but you know, I have heard people say, and it's not just here, I've heard it in other communities as well, and that's what makes it problematic is, you know, people saying, well, look, our community, you know, we're not the place where you have starter homes. Well, if everybody says that, where are you going to put the starter homes? And everybody kind of, the thing that drives a lot of what happens in communities are the people that show up at meetings. And there's a lot of studies and statistics that have been done that show that the people that show up at meetings are the homeowners, the existing homeowners. And it's not the people necessarily that want to buy homes or that maybe are renting because of their circumstances and so on. And so at some point, I think every community, and this, you see this happening, that's why you see what's happening at the state level. And what's happening at the state level in many places around the country is that the idea is that we all need to take some responsibility to try and do something to make at least some component of housing more affordable. And so from that standpoint, I kind of favor it. But I'd kind of like to hear from the commissioners what their feelings are. When I look at the zoning here, even though it is R16 zoning, out of 46 lots, only 10 of them are going to be 6,000 square feet. The rest of them are all going to be bigger than that. And so I don't know that the zoning really drives what's going to happen here. Really, the development agreement's going to drive what happens here. And we have those numbers that are shown there in the staff report, and that'll be in the development agreement.
Commissioner Summercorn, if I may, the average lot size is over 10,000 square feet between the 46 lots. You had asked, let me go back to this. So we do have a couple of, not Symphony products, but a couple examples in the city of, oh my gosh, of smaller lot sizes.
And Melinda, if we may, we can remove the ambiguity of it. In the packet that I provided, and in the presentation,
yeah. Well,
we have actual exteriors.
Okay, hang tight just a sec. So this development just south of the Pickler here on Deseret Drive has some 5,000 square foot lots, so, you know, 1,000, 1,300 square feet smaller than what's proposed here. But you could get a feel for that. So this lot right here is 0.14, which is 6,000 acres. So you could take a drive over there.
Right.
And we also have Talbot Estates.
Sorry.
Up east of Highway 89.
No, I know, I'm familiar with that. That makes sense.
Yeah. The one just south of the Pickler on the east side of Deseret. And then this Talbot Estates up east of 89. Those are some smaller sized lots as well that range, I think, in between like 6,000 and 8,000. So there's a couple of examples, again, not a Symphony product. And then, hold on, let me get to...
Okay, that's helpful.
You can go to page 4. This one will work. Yeah,
so
this is perfect.
These two...
In addition to the top left, so the bottom two on the right side, and then the top left, those are active.
That would fit on those smaller lots.
On that type of lot size, yes.
So for me, the lot size as a driver of neighborhood character, I don't know that it really convinces me that it's not a good idea. But I do hear the argument that you are going to have more homes, which affects more traffic. And, that certainly seems to be a situation there, but it's a situation in a lot of places, but that doesn't mean we should ignore it. The question is, or the problem is, I don't know what we do about it. Because Sunset, I don't know how we're going to widen Sunset. It's just going to be it would be a really tough thing to do. It really would help to have that connection on to Angel and give traffic more options of different directions to go. That would help that situation.
Yeah, I had a lot of the same thoughts. With the lot size, I hear this from everybody, and I think, okay, well, give me a reason. Like, what are the legitimate reasons that zones of different sizes can't be next to each other? Because if there's a good reason, then, we'll use that as a reason to deny a proposal or something. And the thing is that that zoning, they sit side by side all the time, and they don't ruin neighborhoods. And as much as I've tried to come up with a reason that a smaller lot size here would somehow ruin the other lots, I can't find one. I rack my brain going around the rest of Kaysville. I mean, we're the planning commission for the entire city. We look at the entire city, and there are plenty of examples where things are next to each other that are not the same size. And I can't find any of them that I think, oh, that really ruined that neighborhood when they put in those townhomes or those smaller lots. I get that people have preferences. If all our preferences were come to fruition, I'd be living on 20 acres right in the middle of Kaysville, because that would be awesome, But so I can't come to use lot sizes as a reason to turn away the proposal. I think it's appropriate. I think it fits in Kaysville. I don't think it would ruin it and change it. Part of our goal is to have a variety of options, diversity of options in Kaysville, and Kaysville's not known for a lot of diversity in housing options right now. This does that a little bit. It's certainly not dense housing by any standard outside of Kaysville. And same thing, the traffic, yeah, that's a concern. It always is. There are things that come separately from that, and it might be, lights and expansion and stuff, and we've all lived through plenty of examples of that. I'm sure, like we could all name 10 places where that was a nice road when I was a kid, and the houses were 30 feet back, and now they're, and yeah, I don't have a solution for that, but I also can't see the traffic by itself, preventing this kind of a development to go in. With the traffic, as much as it's grown, Sunset's still, like, based on lot size, it's still serving one of the least dense parts of Kaysville. And, you look at any other road and you have the same issues. And so it's not special in that way, which doesn't make it not a concern. But yeah, I hear the concern, but I can't use that as a big enough reason to say, well, this proposal, doesn't fit or doesn't work. I think it still can fit and work with those concerns. That's kind of my take on that.
Yeah, in lieu of widening, you could do some things with traffic control measures, stop lights, stop signs. You could do some things. They're not popular, but
yeah, and we've seen it happen in other.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple comments, if you don't mind. First, I'd like to just start off with thanking Symphony for being here. It's never easy to sit here and hear feedback from the community that's not positive about your development, so thank you for that. I also want to thank everybody else for being here. Thank you for taking an active role in our community. We very much appreciate that. So I have a couple things that I'd like to get through. First one is, while I know Symphony is not obligated to present the full 52 acres, I would like to see that happen. I think it puts the commission and the community at a disservice. So I'd just like to be upfront about that would be my preference. You know, I respectfully, don't take this offensively, you know, you brought up that there's challenges with both sides, right? Those are your challenge. Those are your words. You know, my dad once told me, just because things are hard doesn't mean you don't do them. You know, so I think this is probably one of those situations from my perspective. Again, acknowledging that you have no obligation to do so. You know, I think there's a lot of little things that I struggle with this development. You know, there's a lack of trail connectivity that is big in this part of the community. The open space is pretty dismal, if I'm being completely honest, particularly as the other developments in that area are characterized. I'd like to see something a little bit more robust, especially with the density that's being requested. I think we've talked and belabored the traffic, so I won't go through that again. I do support if the city can find a way to make the Angel Street connection, and I would implore the staff to try to do everything we can to do that. But as far as the density is concerned, I mean, we're trying to squeeze so many lots into this community that we can't even have city-approved streets. These streets have to be private because they're so narrow. And while they barely meet fire code, I would be surprised if we visited with our fire chief and our fire service, if they would be excited about this and would have any concerns whether or not they can provide adequate and timely emergency services to these homes. The setbacks are a real concern for me. Side setbacks of 5 feet, rear setbacks of 10 feet. Just by perspective, that's from me to the chairman, to your next door neighbor. In my mind, that does not meet or preserve the open space of our neighborhoods, of our community, of our city. You know, and I think if I'm going to sum it up, I would say this. We've heard from the open, you know, from public comment tonight from our community members. We've heard via email. We did a survey. We polled members of the community. And what we resoundingly heard was to preserve Kaysville as a rural, open space, small town atmosphere that I think having a setback of 5 feet simply does not meet. This is not what we have heard, and I think we as a planning commission have the onus to not only respect the developer, but to listen to our community, listen to the public comments. This is not what our community wants, and it's not what they expect of us. So I find it very hard to be supportive of this with the density as proposed. Again, like we said, if this was the preserve, I'd vote for it all day long, but it's not. And I think the neighborhood deserves a better product than this.
So what is the side setback standard? Is this any kind of variation from what is consistent across the city already?
Well, the setback in R16 is 5 feet.
And that's
so it is code. It's not an exception to the code.
Correct.
It's a result of the zoning.
The setback in our other zones, however, is, I believe, 8 feet.
What is the setback in the R120?
Hold on, let me pull it up. I want to make sure. Well, actually, it's on that.
One of our public commenters.
Every other
that.
single-family zone is 8 feet. Yes, everything R120, it gets to 10 feet when you're in A1 and A5. Everything else is 8 feet, and then the R16 is 10, or
Okay.
excuse me, 5. So a total of 10 between the two homes, minimum. Everything else is a total of 16.
What about the rear setback?
Those are 25 for R18 and R16. Everything else is 30.
Okay, so significantly more than the 10 with the patio.
Yeah, although that 10 is
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not-
I apologize. I read the wrong column. I apologize. The minimum rear yard setback, so that was 30 feet for the front setback. R110 and above is 30 feet. R18 and R16 is 25 feet for the front setback. The rear setback is 15 feet for R120, R114, all the zones. And then it gets to 30 feet with the agricultural zones.
Okay, thank you.
I think, and I don't have an issue with the density here, but I do think open space is lacking. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the roof heights. Generally, I like to let architecture dictate, but if that were a sticking point, I don't know why it couldn't just be, let's design the roof pitches to meet the standard, but that could be something that was on the table, perhaps.
Lynn, does our PRUD have any standards or any statements about trade-offs, for the, like, more open space or something for doing a PRUD? I can look it up, but I figured you'd probably know right off the top of your head.
It really doesn't have any standards.
There's a lot of PRUDs that I'm familiar with is in order to get the variation from the regular standards, you give up something too, or you provide something, and a lot of the times that's additional open space or something like that.
Typically, yeah.
Yeah, it really doesn't have any
Okay.
requirements like that. But again, that, can be overcome and overridden with the development agreement.
Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to go on the record and agree with what Commissioner Birkinshaw was saying. I feel heavy. It's a heavy feeling. What we're talking about tonight. And I just think I personally think there's a lot that needs to be discussed yet and for us to know. And I think the citizens, and I agree with what, again, Commissioner Birkinshaw said. You didn't have to say everything, but it would have been nice if it was there. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think the people, it would be nice if they knew. And I can understand their doubts of not knowing. And I don't know what the right, I don't know what the right action is. I don't know if it should move forward. I'm feeling that it should be tabled until we have a clear and concise, I would say mission statement, but that's the wrong thing. Actionable statement moving forward. And that's all I have to say about that. It's just a heavy feeling.
Are you saying that in reference to the remainder of the property, or?
Yeah, I mean.
Or the overall rezone request.
The overall rezone request. I mean, they've come in with what they want to do with that section of their rezone.
The 14 acres.
The 14 acres, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's great, but there's always, on the back end, everybody's wondering what's going to happen with the rest. Even though it's not what we're talking about, it's hanging in the air. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know that you need to be fearful of that, because we're not making any agreements for that. I mean, I think whatever it may be proposed would still have to be vetted.
I mean, we have to discuss
we
it.
still have to discuss it. We're not agreeing to anything for those remaining acres. That's another process. I don't think we're blindly agreeing to anything. We're looking only at this property and maybe want foresight on that, but there's nothing to be afraid of. We're not agreeing to anything for it.
Yep, thank you. I agree with that the phasing isn't the concern. However, as proposed, were we to forward our recommendation tonight to the City Council, it would be allow these 46 units to be developed. We've got a drawing that shows one access, and we know they can't complete it until they have at least two. So it doesn't feel, it's not right at this point. And
Please.
The secondary access can and will be solved. I view this, we own the property to connect. It's just not in the planning scope area. Many projects have phased developments as you work through it. And this effort was to try and just establish the single family in the area that it should be for the entire project. This is the only place you can put basements on all 50 acres. We want to capitalize on that here with this type of plan. And so to the question on the east and west, there are 3 different property owners over there, Symphony being one of them. And I could submit what we own, but that would also compound other issues, and I cannot control those other 2 parties. We are making great headway.
are all of these parties you're speaking of to the south?
No, to the east or west. So it's Ivory Homes, Symphony Homes, and then the Hansons who own the Equestrian Center, the actual structures. So it's the 3 of us.
I'm sorry, and the sewer district as well. What's confusing me is that
Oh, yeah.
your initial comment was you own the property for a second access. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, yes.
You're talking about the one that's west of the Equestrian Center? Yeah. That in the traffic study, it shows that second access. It's a ways away from this.
Or are we talking about the 550? So 550 is to be developed. We're not waiting on a sale or sewer for 550. So that would give you Sunset and 550. The only thing that's in question is Angel, correct?
Half of Angel.
Right.
Yeah.
Symphony owns Angel Street from this point to this point. The city owns Angel Street from edge of asphalt to us. Access can be done, and it will be done. It's a timing component. And so the 30-unit restriction is purely just based off of, I acknowledge that as a constraint with proceeding with this type of application. I'm the one that put that in the development agreement, just to set the status quo that I know the west side has to come online before I go to 31. And then from here to there, we own. From here to here, Jeff Hansen owns. And then, as Melinda mentioned, it's UDOT up from there. And we are close, but I don't want to set improper expectation or mislead based off of what I know I can do. And so.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Chair, if it would be appropriate, that there has been a lot of really good discussion. Knowing what some of my items are, whether it's a recommendation with Matt, sharpen the pencil, but go to council, or other, and I don't want to disrupt dialogue either, but a consolidation of thought would be greatly appreciated amongst the commission as a whole. So if appropriate, I would welcome it at some point.
Even to
before a
kind of
motion.
express our intention or like our thoughts on how we would move forward.
Yeah, if it's not a unanimous positive recommendation to city council, I would just hope for some constructive feedback on, well, what gets me there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
I can, thank you, and Mr. Chairman, I can only speak to the applicant.
Yeah.
I can only speak for myself, but I appreciate the change in density and product type from what we saw in August. And that is not the sticking point for me. It's the certainty of traffic access, safety, and understanding those things will come to pass. I feel like we would have egg on our face if we built 30 homes and everybody was spilling down to Sunset Drive, and that was that. So I'm not comfortable going forward in blind faith, if I can use that term. So I would not propose a motion to forward this to the city council tonight and would vote in the negative or another commissioner to do so.
Thank you.
So I'll kind of explain where I'm at. I'm comfortable with the lot size. This is an acceptable zone that exists in our city. It does exist already in other parts of the city. To say that it is somehow inappropriate, that it would somehow ruin one part of the city but not another, bothers me a little bit. To say that somehow this part of the city is deserving or demanding of large lots, and that this, would not fit. It just doesn't sit right. Again, as I said before, I couldn't come up with any legitimate reason that this size of lot couldn't exist in this location. I know we can't operate on unknowns and hypotheticals. And so, I look at this just looking at the piece that's being proposed, ignoring the stuff to the west, and even ignoring the possibility of a second egress. And so what if nothing could ever happen and all we got was the 30 lots? Would I still be okay with this? And I am okay with it. I know the traffic's a concern. It's always a concern. There are things that can be done. There are kids that go to school across roads that are ridiculously busier than this road will ever be, and they do it every day. And their parents are just as concerned, but it works. There are methods. So I that's not something that would stop me from allowing this to be recommended. And so, yeah, I would vote to recommend the proposal to the City Council.
Thank you.
I feel similarly. I'd be open to recommendation. I also would be open to tabling until that angel is nailed down. I wouldn't be opposed to that. And for me, kind of that missing element is probably just that open space. I'd like to see a little bit more open space, but I like the density. I feel comfortable with it. I feel the same that I think it could be a really nice product. I don't think that anybody's going to be harmed in this type of development. We're down more than half from the original proposal as far as density. I feel like it's a pretty good product, so that's kind of where I'm sitting.
I also have to agree with Chair Packer and Commissioner Young. I think the density and the product that you're offering is a really good product. It's a higher end product, and it's still going to keep that kind of consumer, maybe, if you want to say that, coming into the development. And I think you've offered a lot of nice concessions on this, reducing I feel like that was skipped over a little bit, but it's a huge reduction in your initial proposal. I think I'm not a problem with the zoning either. I think it would blend in and people would get used to it.
Thank you.
I don't have a problem with the lot sizes and therefore the zoning, because it's still single family, and that's what our plan calls for. And I think it would work. I think it would work. I would, however, and so therefore I probably wouldn't oppose something to forward that recommendation on, but I would like to take the opportunity to maybe apply a little bit of pressure here, or a little bit of an incentive to say I think I'd prefer to table it for a while to put some pressure on to see if we can get that 550 connection resolved, because I really think that's going to be an important piece of this. I also, with the PRUD, a couple of folks have stated that, in order to get that PRUD, it might be nice to have some amenities. Open space is probably the easiest amenity. I think that would be a good one. And then I just have to say, and this really hasn't come up, but from my experience, I really don't like private streets, because they turn out to be a problem in the long run for the neighborhoods, because when it's time to redo that street and all of a sudden the residents all have to come up with money to redo it, they usually come and petition the city to take over the street. I've seen that happen numerous times. So that's why I'm not a big fan of them. But that's kind of where I'm at.
Thank you.
Can I ask you real quick, it was the idea of a private street just simply for size, making it fit, or?
Part of it was distinction between the two products.
Okay.
We are trying to elevate one of them, and I think that's obvious which one.
Okay.
And the other is, private streets were contemplated abundantly in the prior plan, and so it's something that we've become accustomed with, at least in terms of the application. So it seemed appropriate.
Thank you.
Would you like me to go through my list again, or did you?
I have detailed
You got
notes.
it the first time.
No, I got detailed notes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So we kind of know where most of us sit. What thoughts do we have?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we table the rezone request that's before us tonight. I think with the discussion that we've had here, perhaps there's sufficient direction, I hope so, about some of the things to address and come up with some alternatives or some different approaches. But my motion would be to table.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on that? All right, seeing no discussion, let's go ahead and take a vote. We'll start down here.
Aye.
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 Aye?
Aye.
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 All right, so the agenda item is tabled. I don't know, does that mean we would put it on the next agenda, or are we going to wait until we kind of have, I don't know what we're waiting on, but.
I think we kind of see where things are at.
Yeah, I mean,
after a while.
I think we try and get a meeting with the sewer district and see what we can get sorted out, and I'll work with Matt to see when it would be appropriate to bring it back. But I certainly don't think the next meeting, and
It's
probably
very quick,
isn't going to be the meeting after that either. I mentioned the sewer district, they meet monthly. Their meetings actually are, they mirror tonight's meetings, so they meet they meet the second Tuesday of every month. So timing is a little bit tough with them, but we can work with their staff. Obviously, they're daily. So
Okay.
I would say just stay tuned, watch our agendas. Let me put, for those of you, let me scroll to the very end here. Oops. It's the very first slide. Okay, I'm going to scroll back to the very beginning. We have this QR code. It's also posted, I think it is posted outside. This QR code, you can use that. It will take you directly to our city website where you can sign up for agenda notifications. And that way you can, be informed. But I have a hunch that one way or another, the community will find out when this is ready to be back on. Yeah. You have something to add, Matt?
Symphony will be prepared in 2 meetings. I can commit that from the applicant's perspective. If we can, and I think it's fair to the community to establish a date as well, if appropriate. And the sewer district item is a tough one.
Yeah.
Because if it's a no, we're never selling.
Yeah.
We're back here having a very similar conversation. So Symphony's very in favor of it, but
yeah, that's true.
And I get that, Matt, but I'd sure like to put some pressure on the sewer district.
Me too.
Yeah.
I got some friends now,
Yeah.
so we can have a quorum.
Well, we're behind him 100% if we get that sewer district.
Yeah, so
Fighting what's going on, it's Angel Street. The access to Angel Street is what we want.
yeah, I don't think we can promise it will be on the agenda for the first meeting in February, but it certainly won't be on our next January meeting. But yeah, definitely stay tuned in. It'll be the same item, and so having already had a public hearing on it, it's not normal for us to reopen the public comment section, but we definitely welcome you all here and when we're able to get that back on the agenda. So we do have a few other items we're going to complete. If you slip out, that's fine, but
They have to stick around for the whole thing.
Yeah, we do.
our agenda item number 4, approval of the minutes from December 11th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. We can make small talk until then.
Yeah, if you all could just exit so that we can continue our business, that would be appreciated.
Thank you.
I think a motion is in order for approval.
Okay.
All right.
That was last year. I don't remember that far back.
You just need a motion to approve those minutes?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve
Yeah,
those
we
minutes.
had this question come up at our December 11th meeting, oddly enough. And if you either listen to the meeting and feel comfortable, you still could vote. You don't have to. But we would need, I think, what is it, Katie? A majority of those present would need to vote to approve the minutes.
Yep.
We can also push it forward to the next meeting as well. Because it was Commissioner Lott.
I was here.
Let's refer to the minutes.
Yeah, it was Commissioner, yeah, they're not in the packet. So it's Commissioner Sudi, Commissioner Lott, Chair Packer, you were here, correct?
Yeah, I was here, I think.
Okay, so,
It makes it tricky to ever approve minutes when there are only a few people there, because
Yeah.
the next time you have everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
So if you read the minutes and you feel good about them, I think you're okay to vote.
They were really good minutes. They put a lot of work. Just let's do it.
Oh, you always do.
Or you trust the people that were here that say that they're accurate.
Look at us. Do we look trustworthy?
All right. Now, did we have a motion?
Yes,
you motioned.
I did.
I'll second the motion.
All right. Since
All
some of
those
us
who
may
can
be
vote.
abstaining, I guess let's do a head count.
Aye.
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 Very good. All right. Other matters.
okay, I'm going to make another pitch for our training that we're going to start at the Kaysville University. We did have, I think, Commissioner Young, you responded back to our city manager, Jason. Even if there's only a couple meetings that you could attend, I think it would be great if you're interested. But I think I can send that email back out again. But essentially,
I'm in.
Oh, okay.
I need to email Jason.
Okay. We can let Jason
miss
know.
March 11th or something.
If you've already graduated from Kaysville University,
Oh, please come again. Please come again.
would you?
Oh, yeah,
Is it okay if
absolutely.
we come again and sit?
Yeah,
through?
really,
Everybody should
we're
come
hoping
so
to
we
have,
can have friends.
Yeah, we're hoping to have, we do have a new council member that I think will be attending. It really is a great way to learn more about the city, meet our other department heads that you don't interface with quite as much as me. And so if that's something that you're interested in doing, I know that it is a big commitment. I actually, back in the day, I worked for the city of Chandler, Arizona, and they did a similar thing, and I think it was 12 weeks, but I did that, and it was so helpful to me to understand, everything from police department to, planning and zoning. So it is a wonderful opportunity if that's something, even if you could just, if there was like 1 or 2 nights. I know that is you guys already have a big commitment being here 2 evenings a month. So I'll send that information out again.
When is it? It's on Tuesday nights?
It's on Wednesday nights.
Wednesdays.
Yeah. And I think they were going to start at 6.
And if we miss one, we don't get yelled at.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Don't get credit.
It would start next Wednesday, so the 14th.
It said the thing said the 21st. Is that?
Oh, did it?
There is a single flyer here if anyone wants.
I thought that there was a
I have
14th.
I have it on my calendar on the 14th, but
I think there's a meeting on the 14th.
But I'll send the information out again. But Commissioner Toller, we can let Jason know, and
Yes.
Commissioner Moore will let Jason know.
And does it start the 14th or the 21st?
21st.
Do we know?
Yeah, the
better
email said the 21st. And
I'll
there's
look
a
at-
flyer here.
Get
That,
extra credit if you can find the right answer. Hurry.
Well, I find the
I was
email.
just scrolling for the
It's
email.
the 21st.
Does it starts the 21st?
Yes.
Okay.
So thank
I
you for
don't
bringing
know.
it to my attention. I definitely
You're a
missed
graduate,
that
huh?
email.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
So I think that's really the main thing I would want to just point out tonight. Let's see. I think we will want to, in the future, we'll be bringing probably some amendments to the bylaws. One thing that we want to address, the city council actually is working on right now, but we have had some of our residents that have started to pass around clipboards and meetings, and it comes across that they are giving information to the city when those clipboards aren't from us, and so we're trying to address those things. I think based on what the council adopts, we'll probably try and put something similar in our bylaws. I just don't want people coming to our meetings and thinking they're providing information to the city and kind of disingenuously then giving their information to people that they may not be aware of they're giving their information to. And then, we still, I think we'd have to get those notices mailed out tomorrow for the rezones. Would it be tomorrow for a rezone for our public use zones?
If we were running on 22nd?
Yeah. So I mentioned at our last meeting, which only 3 of those present tonight were at, but we've been working on rezoning. Like some of our parks are zoned residential, and we want to rezone those to public use. It just doesn't make sense. It kind of, I think, distorts to some of the statistics that we would like to, show how much the city is zoned a certain way. So we've been working on those and hoping to find a meeting that we don't have other big items on to bring those forward. I wouldn't expect a lot of public comment on those because it wouldn't functionally change anything, because we're just applying the appropriate zone to the current use. I think that's probably about it. And I definitely don't want to keep us here past 10.
Thank you for jumping in on the yielding of time. That's specifically verboten with the city council.
It is in their rules, what do they call them? The
Bylaws.
Yeah.
I can't
but a chair
come
can
and
always
yield my time
override,
to,
yeah.
by the way, he was a lawyer. So I can't yield my time to my council.
No, they have that in their bylaws
Yeah.
that you can't. I mean, a chair can override any of the rules.
It kind of caught me off guard too, and so I was just like, I didn't know how to shut it down right then. I appreciate you stepping up there.
Well, and maybe we just need to also introduce who you are so that they do know that the advice is coming from the city attorney, so that it's.
He's a resident, but I know him. I know he's an attorney.
Well, I mean, Robert's rules are great. I think they're advisory to you, like you're not bound by them, so.
But yeah, I'm definitely in agreement that needs to be the policy, that you cannot cede your time to other people.
Yeah, it just creates issues of equity and fairness.
Because you've got so many friends, so.
Yeah.
And that's
There's no way to
frustrating and
prove that they
disrespectful.
actually did, really.
Yeah.
Unless they were up there
Who
saying
was
yes.
the person? I didn't know.
And I have
We'll be
seen,
better on
like, I think that, like I've, nerd alert, but I've watched a couple of like Salt Lake City Planning Commission meetings, and they.
I went to a few of those.
I know.
A little weird.
I know, especially when I tell you what it was. Okay, 2 minutes. No, but they would allow, like, if you are specifically representing a community group, like Salt Lake City has their neighborhood
The
group. So
community
like,
councils.
if you're representing the community council, then you get 5 minutes, but if you're a resident, you only get 3 minutes. So we could look at doing something like that, but overall, I think, the school district only gives 2 minutes. So we give 33% more time to our residents. And
That's a t-shirt right there. We get that.
so anyway.
All right, I think we're at that point, right?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. We are adjourned.